Hello, everyone. I'm back again with my second episode of Unfolding the Soul. And today, guest is Michál. He's been my buddy from my early days on the Discord in this corner of the internet. Um, he's always been a source of light, joy, energy, and he kind of stuck by my side through my journey from the big days of depression to wherever I'm at now. And his subject is gonna be
I guess fatherhood.
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 So this is a thing that he introduced to me way back in the day when we started, and I've been so grateful to be able to partake in his journey and in his development. So I got some first hand, well, I guess second hand experience uh, of of uh, of what he's been going through. And so yeah, let's get us going from the start, right? Like when did fatherhood become something that was relevant in your life?
So my father wasn't there from when I was little, when I was a kid, but there were amazing stories told about him and through my mom. So his presence was always there, and I uh, and I missed him, and I wanted to understand what it meant to have a father who was there for you. And this was before I was influenced through other means. I was more influenced through the people around me because I I, I am not originally from uh, uh, from America, but in where I'm from, which is the Dominican Republic, we didn't have a TV or radio or I mean there were radios, but the radios were from other people. So the exposure I got were more from the people that spoke about him, and um, uh, uh, there were these very vivid, or you could say very. There was a strong desire to meet him and and find out how he is, or what that meant to be picked up by him, or what was he doing.
So you got an image in your head, and I sense it's largely collected connected to the needs that you're having, right? Like the lack
Mm.
that was had in your life. So did you have a sense of his person or what he would
Well,
mean for you?
my since my childhood was pretty chaotic and crazy. Um, it was extremely unstable. Uh, my mother was always uh, when she drank, it wasn't it didn't there was a lot of stuff that we were experiencing with my mother that as much as we cared about her, hearing about my father made made that possibility, or trying to meet my father made the something like, here we are, this is worse, but when I meet my father things will be better.
Yeah, so he was representative of a sort of as an escape of your circumstance,
Yes, or not just an escape, but things will be better.
right? So there's also a
Things be,
promise in the future there.
yeah.
So were you in contact with him? Like, was he still like as a satellite there, or were you?
It was I to be honest with you, I really don't remember. I don't remember, but maybe we did because we didn't have a phone. We didn't have electricity. We were pretty
Yeah,
much
maybe say where you were living, like how it was like to live there.
it in living in it felt normal to us.
Hmm.
Because we we don't know what it is to have electricity. Like even if you have a switch or you have electricity, you still have to kind of integrate with it. Like you have to, like, why do you need to turn on the light? Like, why do I have to turn on the light? We had candles and we all blew off the candle. We did know that electricity was important because there were certain shows and we had certain neighbors who had electricity and they invited us over to watch certain things when we could. And this was when we were living with my grandmother. I remember a lot when I was living with my grandmother, uh, before my parents decided or not that decided, but something happened between them and things uh, uh, ev- things got to where they were, where my brother and I, we lived with my grandmother and my sister lived with my father's aunt, and then my father came to the U.S. To make us a better life. And
Hmm.
in in that happening, it also broke many things that we grew up with. Because my mother said that we used to live in a home and we used to have all the things that kids used to have, but then we got something happened and we were not there anymore. So my
Yeah,
mom had to make a decision.
yeah, and your dad wasn't there to fix it, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So you were in an impoverished situation. Um, so the you were living in a village, right? Like and
Yeah. We were living in the village. We were living in different places,
mhm.
but we were in a village, and then we were in uh
And village culture as well, right?
right, yeah. But but we were also living in, you could say, rural. We were living also in uh like a regular town,
Hmm.
a town place as well. And those places didn't have, some of the places we were living in, they still didn't have electricity either.
Hmm. Like I get the distinct sense of domicile where you were kind of lost, right? Like you didn't really settle in somewhere, and then there was this promise or this expectation of your dad, right? Like that was in the future.
Yeah.
Um, so that ended up happening, right?
Well, the greatest, I still remember it. Like when we came to the US and he came to pick us up. I think I was I think I don't know, I think I was like 9 or 7, but we fell asleep at the airport and he picked us up in the summer because I believe during that time, yeah, so during August, July and August, that's when we had that's when we were off, and then my father had time to be with us. So finally, once he was able to get us here, he got us here during the summer
Hmm.
during those times
So,
for a
so,
month or 3 weeks or something like that. So I
so
remember
now,
when he picked me up, like
yeah.
when I remember waking up to his arms and looking at him. I'm like, whoa. He had that little mustache thing going with the long hair, with the Beatles kind of thing going on.
So you had this picture in your head, right? Not only of how he looks like, but like what he would mean to you, and now it actually happened, right? Like it became reality. So how was that?
Well, it it was it was really a dream come true, or yeah, it was really wonderful to finally get to meet my father, and we loved it. We really enjoyed the summers with my father because it was hard going back. Like we had everything when we came here, and he was able to take care of us, and we were able to be provided for. He lived in a little apartment, but um, it felt like heaven. It was it was paradise. It was all the good things that we were, or that I, you know, that I was expecting. Even though I missed my mother, it was way better what we were experiencing uh, here when we came to see him.
So he was actually able to live up to your expectations. That must have been amazing.
For the summer, yeah. I mean, we're
Hmm.
not seeing him. We're not staying with him. That's a whole different story. Once
Yeah.
once it was decided, because we something that we didn't know is that when we came, we went to the doctor and they were checking on us, and then they found out that we were malnutrition. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? And they found worms in our stomach, and it was a lot of stuff that happened during those months. And I think the second year, or I don't know if it was the first year, that's when they uh, got us to the doctor to get us to get me diagnosed due to my respiratory illness that I had, that my mom had to really struggle with. And that's when we discovered that I had asthma, and he helped with that, right? And the people that, so it was heaven. Like it was, and we were living it up. We were one of the first people in town or in the village that had an Atari, even though we didn't have electricity to plug it in, but we had an Atari. Eventually, electricity came. So
Oh, that's yeah, that's really interesting. And yeah, it must have been some tension between your father and your mother, right? Like in your allegiance to them, right? Because like it's like you said, it's heaven, right? Like it wasn't fair competition between them.
yeah, yeah, right. But for some reason, I always, me personally, I've always missed my mom.
Hmm.
Like for some reason, even though it was better, it was not better in the way that my mom made it better.
Hmm. So so yeah, we're talking about being a father, right? So let's go there. Like did you have a sense of being a father, or was that like totally not on your mind?
Well, I got the image. I saw with my father the things that he did. Right, even though we kind of came from a very broken family with um, different siblings from different relationships, he was there. Like, he was always there, right?
Hmm.
And he was someone that everyone admired in Dominican Republic because he he participated in singing competitions, right? So there was this thing that he already had, that people looked up to him, right? And he did help a lot of people. So I thought that everything that he was doing was part of, like, okay, that's what I need to do, and or at least I was figuring it out, like, okay, that's what I need to do. But eventually, uh, it it all in once it was decided that we have to stay, my mother had to make that decision. It was really hard uh, for her to make that decision because we were becoming delinquents. My father said, "Well, send them over and they'll stay with us." Then once we stayed, things weren't heavenly anymore because my father was very temperamental, and he did have he was a casual alcoholic as well, and he did suffer from a lot of uh, I guess there were issues that he didn't that he as much as he was trying to help us, the disappointment when we disappointed him were not didn't really go very well, and that was different. I never experienced that with my mom.
Hmm.
Whenever we disappointed our mom, it was different than when we disappointed our father.
So I get the sense that when you were on vacation, it was all happy and like he didn't have the commitment, and so he could act freely, right? He didn't
Right.
have the same responsibility, and then when that changed, right? Like when he actually had to care for you, um, that's the point where you saw his darker side.
Right.
And so how did that affect your image of being a dad?
Well, I'm in America, so I got heavily influenced by a lot of American stuff. But I didn't want that. I didn't want, like, I didn't want the side where my father, when he became disappointed, he became a whole different person.
Hmm.
I didn't want that, and I looked at other people. at other celebrities because now I have access to the TV. So now celebrities became what is it that my father is missing that I'm that I want to be able to.
Yeah, so you were trying to resolve a problem there.
Yeah.
And yeah, how how did that form your later days? Like, is this a thing that kept you busy all the time, or is that something that more occurred
Well,
later on?
we uh, out of the three of us or the four of us, I didn't want to disappoint him.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really tough. But again, like I found other male role models that were part of the culture that I was trying to see. Maybe that's what it means to be a father, since my father wasn't there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and and that that still was not was still not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned how to work from my father and from my biological father, and I learned how to love my job from my biological father, and I learned how to care for others from my mother. But then I still didn't know what does it what is that role of a father.
Mm-hmm. So first he wasn't there literally, right? And then when he was there physically, he, he wasn't there in an emotional way. Um, s do you connect these two things? Like, do you think they're similar, or does that feel like a totally different thing?
Yes, yeah. The ability to be able to the ability to be able to integrate both, to be this father and to understand the emotional part was not really something that he was able to do the way my mother used to do. Because it was it's hard to say which place was worse, but
Mm-hmm.
I would still prefer my mother over my father. Because even if we experience really horrible things with my mom, as you could like as I said earlier, we were malnutrition. It was just bad. But my mother, she stayed up at night when I was sick with asthma. My father never did that.
Mm-hmm.
Many days, for hours, just trying to calm my nerves, or just praying over me, or trying to keep me relaxed for because of my asthma attack, and we didn't have any medicine. She was there,
Mm-hmm.
drinking and drunk, like, but she was still able to care for for those moments that I felt like I was going to die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's real intense. So this care aspect, like that's obviously something you really value. So I assume that's something you wanted to take into being a father.
Well, I did, but I didn't want to do it like my mom did too, because my mom did it too much to some degree, because she cared enough about my physical being, and you could say that that was helpful because it was able to transfer to my emotional. But when it came to relationships, it was a whole different thing, because my mom pretty much she was more of a do whatever feels right.
Mm-hmm. So I get this sense that you you got these things, right? Like, and the way I see it is you're not really sure, right? But you get these deep feelings, right? Like
Hmm.
these deep feelings about, oh, this is right, this is not right. Like, I need to resolve this, and and so you're growing up. Um, um, like, is there something like, no, another significant event or something, or is it you just trying to use culture to look
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the thing that you're missing?
yeah, yeah. Pretty much the culture was the thing that I used to try to figure out what does it mean to be a father,
So
and
so what did you learn from culture?
that I could do anything. Like
Hmm.
from the culture, I learned that if I work, which is kind of like what my father said, that if I work hard and I provide a means for my family to be able to survive, home, food, money, that's what it meant to be a father.
Hmm.
But I knew somehow I knew that that wasn't enough. I knew that there was something missing. Because then when I did get to that point, then it didn't feel right. Like there was something else that was not correct. Because then I was becoming very resentful towards towards my kids.
Hmm.
Because then I started using a lot of the lines that my father used to use, which is, "This is my home. Uh, I work all these hours. I stayed over here," and and even though I knew deep down inside that there was something wrong with it, I still said it.
Hmm. So we've now arrived to the point that you got a kid, um, and you also
Yeah,
have
yeah,
two stepkids.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so you married into into a family, um, and then you're trying to grasp at something, and you're grasping back to what you know, right? Like what your
yeah,
father did, and you have this discomfort around it. It's like, no, that's not right. Like, there's more.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, like how did you look at yourself? Like, did you look at yourself as a father at that point?
No, no, I was this. I mean, if I was following the culture, then yeah, but I knew there was something else missing.
Hmm.
But I didn't really understand it. I didn't know what my role was besides just working and telling them what to do, or not even engaging with the mistakes that they make.
Hmm. So I guess we want to visit the iconic moment where your child got born. Like was that special? Like how did you experience that?
I
As,
mean, I experienced it through my wife, but for me, it was not as special as I thought it would have been. Because by that time, I was too already. Uh, because I was too. I was I was already living in a very in a dull kind of place. Like I was
hmm.
not really trying to understand, or not even trying to understand, but by that time I got beat up so much that I just, I became dull, and um it 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 it, it didn't sink to me, or it was, another kid.
Yeah, so there was a sense of apathy as well there, where you're just like, okay, yeah, that's how it is. I got to deal with it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and then you could say that it probably that came from my father, right? Because we there's I have siblings not directly related to my biological mom. So, but he took care of us, right? And he took care of us because of money. So that's pretty much how I saw it. Like, okay,
And responsibility as well, right? Like to.
yeah,
Hmm.
right.
So yeah, like, do you feel like we need to describe that more, or can we?
Um, I mean, I married my wife because I was trying to be that father to her kids that that I I I I believe I was missing when I was a child and I never got, and I was trying to figure that out. But in my experience, I didn't it didn't feel reachable, so I didn't really engage to the degree that I am now.
Hmm.
So I was I was passive in some decisions, but I was extremely dismissive of everyone's agency
Hmm. So,
because
so
I felt it was replaced with my work and me being here. Like I'm here, you know, at least
so
I'm here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, and you stuck through it, so that's great. So I feel like there.
I mean that's how I used to think.
Hmm.
Like
Yes. So I get a sense, right, like that you had this aspiration, right, as part of you marrying, where you're like, oh, I'm gonna provide this, and then when you actually got there, right, and you had to live it out, you felt lost, like you didn't know uh, how to do the thing that you had in your head.
right. That yes. That
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. I didn't even know how. I really didn't understand what to do, especially now that I'm a stepdad of two beautiful kids. You know, it was it I just didn't have access to that. It was just okay, we're married. This is the way it's going to be. Uh, um, I guess that's what you know. That's just what it is. But my engagement with them was very distant and dismissive, and even with my wife.
Mm-hmm. And that changed. So what happened?
Well, after being married and seeing um, or experiencing something that I didn't experience before through my wife, um, I I started to I started to get glimpse of the way that I can be that father through through my wife, and we I think like sixth or seventh year. I mean, we were having issues, but I was willing to just do what everybody else does. And it's like, okay, you know, if we want to get a divorce, we could get a divorce. But she never wavered. She she never doubted. And every morning she did the same thing. And I was very dismissive of that. And eventually, I wanted to understand what was it that she was seeing in our relationship. And that's when she showed me God.
So she dragged you. Well, that's maybe the wrong word, but she enabled you to find a new way, to to see
Yeah.
yourself with new eyes, and 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 that happened through God. So you found God in your life, and that's the start of of a transformation
Yeah.
that you had to go through.
Yes. And then I wanted to know more, and I made I made mistakes, but uh, her commitment to my or to our marriage, she really meant it. and I've never met anyone like that.
Hmm. And I feel like you really sincerely want to return that favor, and through being a
Yeah,
good dad, being a good husband.
yep, yeah, and she, because of her faith, I was able to find uh, someone I could aspire to be through
Hmm.
through Saint Joseph.
Yeah. So through the fate, you find Saint Joseph, and he became this special uh, point of reference for you, that because he allowed you to look at yourself in a certain way. He provided an ideal uh, that you could live into. So what was what was Joseph representing for you?
He represented this person who wanted the good for the Son of God.
Hmm.
He he wanted, even though it was hard for him, he was called upon God to commit himself to taking care of Jesus.
Hmm. And that's what you also wanted. You wanted to make that commitment, and you wanted to
Yeah,
find a way to care.
yes. I wanted
So
to find a way to be that father that I that was not dismissive of people's agency,
hmm.
especially my own.
Hmm. And then the aspect that Joseph is not the father of Jesus, right? Because
Yeah,
he's a stepfather, right? So there was this extra element that you could identify with.
yes, yeah, definitely.
So yeah, like so now you got this ideal. You have this promise of of finding a solution. So how did that transformation go? Like what changed?
Well, I started going to church to try to understand what is it that my wife was seeing, because she was uh, um, she believed in the marriage according to the church, and I wanted to understand that. So as I was trying to figure out what 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 was it that this uh, this this desire that I had to be this father, uh, I started going to different churches and reading and looking at different YouTube videos and trying to find the Joseph character that it took a while, but it 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 was I was able to get to a point of also seeing the relationship that Mary had with Joseph, and that was very important for me to be able to understand how to to say yes to the moments that I'm currently in, and be able to continue on and to continue on exploring my my relationship to myself, my relationship with with my kids, and my relationship with my wife, and
So it sounds to me that you found new ways of appreciating what what you were part of, what was happening.
yeah, I wanted to find I wanted to find a way to, like you said, uh, give back what my wife gave to me, and be grateful for it.
Hmm.
I wanted to be grateful and not let that go.
So the gratitude is the thing that allowed you to find the strength for all the other things that you had to
Yes.
change.
Yes.
Hmm. So you're being a dad. You're having step kids. Uh, you're going to church. You're recognizing what well you already recognize the value of your wife, but you're recognizing new parts of the way that she's valuable and the way that she's there for you. Um, so where does that lead? Like, is there a moment where things change?
Of course. My kids are not mine, and my time here is limited. So it leads where I can feel that all the past experiences that that I went through, my wife, my father, and my mother, uh, now have been. We're not everything that they experience and I experience has an eternal purpose
Mm-hmm.
that I can be grateful for.
Mm-hmm. So that's the place you found gratitude in the purpose.
Yes.
Uh, and then uh, so you're doing all of this exploration through church, like, and you're also looking at YouTube videos at a certain point. Like is are there any significant events that we should visit or because I
Well, the most important event was meeting you, of course, because you helped me find a way to articulate and say the things that were inside of me in a manner that I can be understood.
Mhm.
And when I found out that the internet or what was happening through my life, like this idea of discernment, uh, uh, has been one of the most, or right now is the most important thing for me. The ability to be able to speak with people who care about the well-being of others and and understand that the answers are not really linear, but they're complex, and you were able to help me with that. So that is probably the most important moment as I was trying to figure out uh, the way that I can communicate my with myself, with my family, and with others.
Mhm. So so I get a sense that the time before was more related to you how you were affected emotionally and how you could experience things differently and then when you got on the Discord and met me and started talking with people around these issues you you started moving to a space where the articulation was giving you tools, new tools to look at yourself, but also to include other people in the process.
Right. Yes.
So yeah, like
And out of that experience, out of the many people that I talked to, you were the only one who wanted to really see the people grow, while other
Mhm.
people were were not really into that.
Right.
They were
So
doing something else.
right. So this idea of growth is this something that you were familiar with before you met me, or is that
No,
something?
no, no,
Okay.
no.
So
There were
so
there
you.
were a lot of ideas that I didn't have
Mhm.
or articulation to that I wanted to be able to have in order to show how much I am grateful to the people around me.
Mhm. So I remember in the early days you got really charmed by this idea of the divine feminine. So so do you have a way of putting that in relationship to being a dad?
Uh, th- when I was speaking earlier, how I see the divine feminine saying yes to God, and then how Joseph said yes to God. That's how I see the divine feminine. We we are we 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 have moments in our lives that they may be hard, but if one can find the gratitude or the blessings or the good in those moments of hardship, things can get better.
Hmm. And I also feel like you you recognize the importance of the divine feminine through your wife and what she did for you.
Yes.
Yeah. And so yeah, like you pushed that really hard when uh, when we were talking, and you were right. Like that was really important to explore that. So I'm really grateful for for that.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
so yeah, so now you're in this different space. You're starting to understand things. You're starting to get language to explain to yourself and others. And so like what does that change for you? Like how does that
Well, it
change
help
being a dad?
it I'm able to, again, going back to the divine feminine understanding, I'm now able to be more receptive and be able to participate not based on my will, but on the will of the good. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the will of the good. How can I participate in a way that I can show the light in everyone around me?
So
And I fall short a lot of times,
mhm.
and as long as someone that it's there to, or something is there to make sure, or you have people who can hold you accountable to your mistakes, that you can grow, it's okay.
Mhm. Right. So I get a sense of trust, right? Like you found some sense of safety or comfort in this idea of growth, um, and the making mistakes and and well, I might be projecting, but I get a sense, right? Like you want to promote the good, and and by knowing this idea of growth, right? Like that everything is in service to growth. Like it allowed you to disconnect a little bit and let go a little bit and embrace potential, which is also a big subject
Yes.
in our talking.
Right. And I didn't know that that's kind of what I was looking for.
Hmm.
You know, the potential in people. Can can we see the potential of what people can really be and how they can be? And that all of that I learned through my wife.
So do you have maybe a practical example of how these new insights made a change in how you are a father?
So we found out maybe a couple of years ago that my younger son, he's really musically inclined and he's able to type really fast. And I was able to have a conversation with you and other people, with you, Mark, and other people, and I was able to understand that him being able to do that is not the 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 goal. It's it's something, and I knew that. That's the reason why I came. Like that's the reason why I share that, because I knew that just because he types really fast doesn't mean that that defines him. Like I want my son to have his own agency, which has been the most important thing that I've discovered in all of our conversations. And and with that understanding, I was able to modify my guidance and not be uh, not treat him in a value sense. Like not look at him as this person who was able to type really fast, but continue to look at him as someone who is the son of God, and and to wish him, or to do things in the name of the good for him, not in the good for me.
Mm.
And so that was probably the biggest example. And then other examples is that when um, I stayed when we had the pandemic and we all had to work from home, I did what my wife did to me. And through speaking through you guys and understanding that participation is important, I did what my wife did to me with my family, and I cooked every day. And by cooking every day, I was able to relate with my stepkids much much better, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed I enjoyed knowing that this is what I'm doing. I did of course there's sometimes it's hard because you want that reciprocal feedback, but
Mhm.
that's not the reason why you're doing it,
Mhm.
right? You're doing it for the good because this is the right thing to do. And that's hard. I mean, I don't know. Like it seems that's hard for people to understand. Like, why is it good for you, for me to cook dinner, and pray? And it took time, but now, now my son listens to me, which I really appreciate, and I'm grateful. Much better. I'm able to have a much deeper conversation, and he's able to understand that um, I'm not interested in lowering his agency or anything like that. So that because there's what I say, but there's what I do, and what I've learned is that doing those things have created a much stronger um, relationship between us.
Mhm. Intimacy. That's the
Yes,
next
yeah,
next
intimate,
thing that
much
we're
intimate.
we're on about all online. It's like what
Yeah,
is that? And
yeah,
yeah,
and
like
I have to take and it's hard, right? Because like it's hard to do that. Like it's hard because when I'm doing it, I don't want to do it because like I don't want to do it because again there's the reciprocal part of me like, no, I'm doing it now, you should do this. And sometimes I fail, and then I have to take responsibility for that failure, and that has been probably the most important thing that I understood about this whole divine feminine. Like, yes, you should take responsibility for the failures of falling short, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to get better, right? Because within that failure, if you look at what you did, you can there's something magical that happened. There's a blessing that happened in there, and maybe you may not be able to see it, which is sometimes why I have conversation with other people.
yeah, and I well, it's also why we're having this conversation, right? Because you're saying like people have a hard time understanding, and I hope that by showing your journey and getting uh, your experience of this and the transformation within you uh, in the spotlight, it allows people to see what the value is of these things, these ways of thinking, these ways of participation, right? Like looking looking for the growth, and looking for the good, and that yeah, your actions aren't always going to be appreciated by the people around you, but that's okay, right? Because maybe they will in 15 years. And
And they will, that's the uh, and uh, if you're doing it, eventually maybe you might be doing it out of bitterness, but it's better to do it anyway. just keep your mouth shut. Like, that's what I've learned
Mm-hmm.
because that bitterness you can pray on and reflect on and find out why are you bitter about that, and it could be another form of transformation,
Mm-hmm.
which with that intimate uh, meditative practice of you thinking about that bitterness, there's the divine feminine in there because
Mm-hmm.
eventually it will lead to a yes.
If you want to look for it.
Right.
So yeah, like so it seems like you've transformed your home, right? Like what it is to be part of your household, but it also seems that you've gone through a transformation yourself, right? Like how you see the world and yeah, I think you've mentioned attention, right? Um, you mentioned growth, so there's all of these new ways of looking at things. So how does that change being you, right? Like how does that change your experience of life?
Well, it gives me it shows me much more potentiality than I used to think when I used to uh, uh, be more of following what the culture was telling me. Because now with with the attention, when I look at something that may be bad, I'm not looking at something bad. I'm looking for the good,
Mm-hmm.
and and with the growth, I'm looking to transform it and glorify it.
Mm-hmm.
I,
And
I,
that's relating to agency, right? Like
yes,
those two things empower you in some sense,
yeah,
or at
and
least empower you against evil, right? Or the negativity in the world.
no, and that is true. I've had people that they are scared of me because of this way of thinking,
Yeah.
and I didn't. It isn't. I'm not. All I'm doing is showing the good, but for some odd reason, that's not. They find it. They find me showing the good a bit too much or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Like it can be scary, right? Because like when there's light, the light casts a shadow, and if you're in that shadow, like maybe you don't like the light because now it's blinding you and it's pointing out where you're failing, even though you might not consciously register that.
Yeah.
Um, so it sounds to me that you've kind of redeemed yourself in a really profound way, um, and that you actually are at the place where you're being the father that that you think you should be, or at least that you're getting there.
I'm
Uh,
getting there.
right.
Definitely getting there. It's working.
Well, yeah, but we're always on a journey, right? Like in some sense, we're never there. But yeah, like that is really powerful, right? Like so so in some sense you've overcome, well, you've overcome many things in life, but you've overcome this box that you got put in as a consequence of of how you were raised, right? And
Hmm.
the values that you got inherited, um, and you were able to step out of it and embrace uh, something way bigger, right? Like through God, you found this way where you do have the sense that you're doing the right thing within your capabilities, um, and and yeah, so that's a really powerful story. So I think we're kind of getting at the present, right? So now you're 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 looking at the future of your kid. you're looking at your own future. Uh, the the older kids are already out of house, so yeah, like where do you see being a dad going? Like, is there aspects where you're like, oh, I'm still missing here. I haven't explored this yet, or yeah, how do you look at it?
Well, I would like to be there for my kids. Oh, I would like to be a granddad and be the type of granddad that that can afford them more growth.
Mm. Yeah, that's powerful. So it's in some sense I see granddad as like the transcendence of dad, uh, and so how do you see the distinction between what's required of you of being a dad and what's required of you being a granddad? I get the
I
sense that it,
see I see my participation not as uh, not so direct, like not in uh, this constant um, it, 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 it not as fast paced, but more uh, slow pace and more understanding of what my kids would like me to help them with. Because right now I am a dad, but I'm uh, the things that I'm doing are really very direct, and I'm constantly transgressing. I see a lot less transgression as a granddad
mm,
than as a dad because of the the unnecessary uh, part of transgressing on the kids and constantly having to remind them of things, but be more of a receptive beacon for them or something like that.
yeah, so I didn't realize, but as granddad, you have two relationships, right? You have a relationship to your kids, but you also have a relationship to your grandkids. Uh, and my
Yeah.
mind slipped to your relationship to the grandkids for some reason. But yeah, obviously, as a granddad, you get out of the picture, right? Like in some sense, you're not part of the family
No.
in the daily aspect, uh, but you're more in an advisory role.
Yes.
So what comes up for me is wisdom, right? Like that's what
Mhm.
an advisor is supposed to have. Um, and then there's also the aspect of your relationship with your grandchild. So yeah, like
Mhm.
maybe that gives you a way to think about
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Can't wait.
it. You're excited. Um, so so your kid is going to high school soon, right?
In 2 more years.
In 2 more years. So do you
He's in seventh grade right now.
yeah
Next year he'll be going to eighth.
do you foresee your relationship change like
Um. Yes. Yes. I. 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 I would like to start stepping back when he goes into high school and start more of a that grandfather role and just be here because I see that in Joseph. I think Joseph, once Jesus was able to show him that he was able to take care of himself, Joseph pretty much just stayed in the back. So I hope that I'll be able to do that, and especially in high school, it makes sense.
mhm. So yeah, that sounds like you. Oh wow.
Do you want to say hi to Manuel?
Well, there's this kid, the leading role.
Yes. Mhm, mhm. Welcome home.
So
God
yeah,
bless you too.
so hmm? Are you good?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So
Sorry about that.
there's this sense, and it's really nice to see him, and it's also nice to have him on camera a little bit. Um, there's there's this sense of respecting agency, uh, and giving responsibility over uh, their agency, right? When the kids grow up, right? Like when they
Mhm.
get into puberty. So that's what I'm feeling from you there. And I guess I still have one question, right? So you
Which is hard. Like it's hard when I think about it because I don't. I I sometimes become doubtful due to the influences and because I I want to make sure if there's anything that I'm passing down through my faith is that they don't need to feel alone, but I have to let them go.
Mhm.
But I'm here if they need us, the church. So, it's hard to know, the balance between those two
Yeah, and in some
because you
sense
don't
they
want to,
have to reach out to you.
yeah,
So that at that part you're no longer responsible, right? Like then they have a
yeah,
responsibility to to involve you in their business.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, like the last question that's on my mind is okay, so you've now got all of these ideas of what it means to be a, a good dad or a good parent maybe. Um, so how are you planning to communicate these things to your kids? It's obvious that just the fact that they got to experience you and they got to see all of this stuff with you that they're gonna inherit some of that, right? Like they're gonna look at the world as if that's the right thing to do, but in some sense, right? Like you were talking about this sense where when you got the words right, like when you got the articulation of these ideas, your relationship changed a bit. So I'm kind of looking for like how are you going to provide that?
I hope that okay, yes. God bless you too. Um, well, I in my journey that my kids have seen, if there's one thing that I even when I was dismissive that I've always encouraged is to have a way of relating to the world where they're growing. You can say that my between my father and the culture, that's one thing they got right. Like you always have to be growing. Like, you can't get stuck. And if there's something that I hope that they'll take with them is that self the the uh, the ability to be able to have agency and relate with that agency is the most important thing in their life.
Yeah, so I'm still looking for some practical advice. So that's I think you're correct that that's really
Yeah.
important.
The
So
the,
so
the
for the listeners maybe, right? Like how would you communicate that to a listener, right? Like
you need, you cannot do it by yourself, unfortunately. I'm like I cannot do this without people who are gonna hold me accountable. And the church helps, the Discord helps, but reading a book and watching a YouTube video is not going to help you. That definitely does not work. You need people to talk to where they can keep you grounded, and one one does not become uh um one is not too too far from where they are able to relate with people, because just because you have new information, it doesn't mean that people are ready for that information. And that's probably the most humbling thing I've learned.
mhm,
You have to be grounded and meet people where they are, because that is what Mary ultimately helped me see.
mm. Yeah, that's really powerful, especially with kids, right? Like you have to meet a kid where they're at. Uh,
Yeah, and it's
and that
always like that. It's
mhm,
always like that. Yeah, at many different levels, and that's something that I discovered through you and on the Discord.
mhm.
Like it is not my aspect. Like I cannot do it. Like you looking at someone and then seeing that they could be better. That's the wrong way to do it. Like looking at someone and discerning and then figuring out how you can help them and participate in that struggle. That is where your
Mhm.
most truest reflection of your agency will be shown.
Yeah, that's powerful.
I learned that through you guys. I learned how to articulate that through you guys.
I
So
am
thank
I'm
you.
proud.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
so yeah, do you still have things that are alive for you?
Forgive me. Yeah.
Things that you want to share, like that were left out, or do you think
Oh no,
we
this is just
covered?
too much already.
Yeah, it was an
It's
intense
just
journey, and I
yeah.
am really grateful for your sharing, for your honesty, for you being there with me on my
Hmm.
journey as well.
Yeah,
It's yeah, it's life is a rough ride, and
yeah, it is, and I think it's important to um, the people who are watching this, like, which I said to you earlier, what you're seeing is only a small percentage of who we are, and it's important that stays intimate, right?
mhm.
That stays with you, that you pray on that and you reflect on that, because what you're doing is great, Manuel. And I hope that the people who do watch it understand that you're doing this to show people the good in all of us. But this is just a small a small reflect a small sample of who we are.
But an important sample. Um,
Yeah, yes, definitely, definitely. That's why I'm here.
yeah. So thanks everybody for watching. Please leave comments and share your experience. And I want to give real special thanks to Michelle for his participation, his sharing, and see you guys next episode.